So Arc Raiders has been a pretty popular game since it came out, and it's not without its share of problems. See, I've played the game a lot, an embarrassing amount in fact, and whether that's actually playing the game, waiting for my teammates to ready up while I AFK in Speranza, or play inventory management sim, I couldn't tell you. But yes, I know there's a time spent topside stat. Let me preface this just by saying that it has the makings of a great game. That's my Discord, not yours. The framework is amazing. It's just littered with issues right now, like an incredible amount of issues. A lot that are easily fixable, a lot more that are easily avoidable, and some that are, say, more difficult to tackle, but we can get to those later. We can start with the less egregious of the problems. I'd say these are even subjective to an extent. I'm talking about the gameplay design, or just the game design in general. As it stands, a lot of people will say, well, I've heard arguments that the gameplay sandbox is perfect right now. You know, chef's kiss. Oh, perfect. Oh, I wouldn't have it any other way. Um, I would argue otherwise. First and foremost, the weapon balancing is out of whack. Take, for example, the augment balancing. Now, when you go from free loadout, the gray, to the green, that's my Discord, don't worry, the blue and the pink, it feels like you're getting more bang for your buck as you go up the rarity tier list. And across the rarity tier list, say, let's look at the pinks, you have reasons to run the Looting Mark III Survivor, you have reasons to run the TAC Defensive, you have reasons to run the TAC Healing. So that variety is good. In terms of weapon balancing, the pink rarity is just never worth the investment compared to any of the other guns. It's just ridiculously expensive to maintain, to upgrade, to repair. The burn rate is insane, and obviously they are incredibly rare compared to the rest of the lineup of weapons. So you're not getting the bang for your buck that you kind of want when you've come across a rarer item. You've probably heard or seen the comparison between a Bobcat 4 and a Stitcher 1, where a Stitcher 1 can kill a player with a medium shield in a single mag, whereas a Bobcat 4 cannot. The upgrades not helping towards damage whatsoever. Like, okay, that's fine. It would be fine, rather, in the context that the Bobcat outclasses the Stitcher in more situations than the Stitcher outclasses the Bobcat. Unfortunately, it's the other way around. The gray gun is markedly better than the pink tier gun. Damage per bullet for the Stitcher is higher than the damage per bullet for the Bobcat. And obviously the Bobcat has a higher fire rate. Also, that takes into account the ammo economy. The bullet efficiency is just worse for the Bobcat. One more reason for it to be a little weaker. But say that the damage per bullet for the Stitcher being higher and the lower fire rate also makes it good or better than the Bobcat at distance. It makes it better than the Bobcat in team fights. The argument for the Bobcat is just put a blue mag on it and then you can mag dump a single dude, and no matter if he's got a heavy or medium shield, you kill him. Same with the Stitcher, you can mag dump a heavy or medium shield guy, and you will have bullets to spare for their teammates, while the Bobcat will excel in a 1v1 where the TTK matters the most. A good chunk of players play in squads, myself included, so really I'd find myself using a Stitcher very cheap with just a couple attachments on, instead of putting those attachments on a Bobcat where I get less performance out of it. And that's not how you want the game to operate, especially when you've got the rarities implied. When you implement a tier list, there's the promise and the implication that the rarer the item, the better it performs. When it's harder to find, it's harder to maintain, it's harder to upgrade and craft, especially the blueprint. You can't, like, that's so rare. The level of strength just does not reflect the difficulties it takes to actually acquire or use a Bobcat. And this isn't exclusive to the Bobcat alone. Consider the Bettina is just a garbage gun, and despite Embark's protests that it in fact is the highest of its rarity, i.e. the pink tier, it has the highest DPS amongst the pink tier excluding the Hullcracker, which is arc specific. That's not a great achievement if you look at the neighboring light ammo Bobcat, shotgun shells Volcano, and the medium ammo Tempest. You're not looking at much competition when you're the only heavy ammo weapon in your category. Having the highest arc DPS in the pink rarity is not quite the achievement that they think it is, and it's still underpowered. The ammo efficiency is absolutely garbage. You have to bring in 5 stacks if you want to actually do anything. It's expensive and it's useless. And I think that's problematic when you're seeing gray guns and green guns outperform pink guns, which means that the excitement that you find a rarer weapon is lost because it's not actually powerful. It's hard to get, but it's not great. And I think that's an issue. The excitement for me when I find a pink gun really just comes from the fact that I can turn it into more materials that I can use for upgrading weaker guns, less rare guns, namely the Venator 4. Now, when it comes to weapon balancing across games, it's okay to have a low floor. So the worst gun in the game, I would say, is the hairpin, and that's okay. You're allowed to have really bad items in games. Which reminds me of a philosophy from Hearthstone, I think is Ben Brode, with the Magma Rager card. It's notoriously bad, it's just garbage. But garbage cards have a place in Hearthstone, as the hairpin does in Arc Raiders, especially in an extraction shooter. When you get the hairpin as loot, it's sort of a low roll. You miss the jackpot, right? In a game about loot, you want peaks and troughs. The hairpin exists as a trough, and you want the pinks to exist as a peak. Unfortunately, I get more excited if I find a Venator than if I find a Bobcat. I just think that should be reversed because the performance of the gun is just not worth what it puts out. So like I said, you're allowed to have particularly weak weapons, as in this singular item is the bottom of the tier, guaranteed. But you do not want there to be a singular best item, because what that does is it reduces and restricts variety. I was talking about the augments earlier, how you have a choice amongst the tier 3s, like Looting Mark 3 Survivor, Attack Mark 3 Healing, and Attack Mark 3 Defensive. Those have reasons to be used. You have your variety. When it comes to weapon choice, I think Venator just excels way above everything else, and that doesn't mean please nerf the Venator, please don't. It just means that other guns need a touch-up to be at its level, especially when the Venator is not even a pink tier, it's a blue tier gun that's outperforming every other gun across the spectrum. Let me look at my notes. In terms of tiers, we have the gold guns, which are a disappointment, I'd like to say. They're fun to use, they're cool, they're novel, they are gimmicks. It's not like they don't have their place in the game, as in Arc exclusive weaponry, but looking at the most recent edition, the Aphelion, it's just straight garbage. There's no reason to build the Aphelion over the Equalizer or the Jupiter, which makes the Matriarch fight less rewarding. Really, all I do with the cores is sell them. There's no point to ever crafting the Aphelion. It's a double burst rifle, where the second burst is significantly impacted by the recoil of the first, which means at distance it is absolutely useless because you will always miss either your first or your second shot, and in close range the fire rate is so low that you might as well just use an El Toro or something. So it has no place in the PvP. It's outclassed by the Jupiter at long range, it's outclassed by the Equalizer at close range. There's just not much reason to use this gun, and it's a gold tier rarity, and you don't want the top of your gun. How do I say this? The Matriarch is like the big boss, one of the big bosses of Arc, and to have there be very little reward and the exclusive gun that is for the Matriarch or from the Matriarch only is not great. It's not exciting to use. It's not even fun to use, really. It's disappointing. Now, I understand that there's a reason for not making the pink guns too strong, and there's a reason for not making the gold guns too strong. That is, whether in fighting Arc or fighting PvP. Now, particularly in the PvP context, there are concerns with a gear delta. That is, the chasm between the weakest items and the strongest items. You don't want, especially because Arc Raiders uses an optional wipe system, you don't want people hoarding the strongest guns, coming into a raid and just flooring the lobby because their itemization is just that much stronger than everyone else's. The step up from the Pharaoh to the Anvil, I think, is pretty good. That's an example of an upgrade from gray to green, but it's not so egregious that a gray gun, the Pharaoh could never beat an Anvil, right? You want a minimal gear delta, but you still want a step up with each tier. You want the green guns to feel better than the gray, the blue guns to feel better than the green, and the pink guns to feel better than the gray. Because right now they don't. When your highest tier of PvP related guns is outperformed by your lowest tier, there's a problem. While gear delta is a concern, right now it's not even that the pink guns are outperforming the gray guns, it's vice versa. At least with one or two examples, which is about half the pink guns in the game, excluding the Hallcracker. Very questionable design, and it's easily fixed. And like I said, this is also subjective, so it's not that everyone's going to agree with this take, but I do think that as the Stitcher being an SMG and the Bobcat being an SMG, maybe make the Bobcat, if it's going to be 3 tiers higher, green, blue, pink, than the Stitcher, it should at least outperform it in every situation. If they're going to share a class of weaponry, it should outperform it in every situation, or at least majority. So with weapon design aside, other game design issues, trials are a joke. They're evidently a last minute add-in that were not really thought through. You have the solos and trios points shared, and like, I'm not complaining because I play in trios, so I benefit from this, but I do think it is unfair solos have to deal with this sort of disparity, and it's been a complaint ever since trials had shown up, and there's been no look to fix, there's been no look to even address, and it has not even been acknowledged by the devs, which I think is a huge problem. You can at least note that it's on your radar. Dev communication, I think, is pretty weak with Embark. You also have the unfair leaderboards, because what happens is, like I said, I play in trios, and I will have the same amount of points as my teammate. I will be sitting in a demotion range. We'll be in the same rank, and I'll be sitting in a demotion range. I'll be in the bottom, 20 players or some such, and my friend will be in the promotion range, which is past the maintenance range where you don't change rank, and all the way up to a promotion range. So with the same points, the same rank, we are about 30 ranks in difference. So the trials just aren't reflective of your potential, your skill, how you perform. It's really just luck of the draw on whether or not you get a good leaderboard. I think that's kind of disappointing. And, I mean, on top of that, the rewards are kind of ass, especially the skins, Jesus Christ. We can talk about the skin design later. And while we're on trials, I just want to talk about how poor the scalability of this game is. The game was not coded in a way that takes into account scalability as an expansion. Like, for example, the Cold Snap recently introduced candleberries, a plant that you can harvest. So naturally, during a trial, the trial was to harvest plants. And I was like, cool, they have a harvestable plant that they added. Surprise, the new harvestable plant does not count towards harvesting plants. I feel like that is an oversight that was not either accounted for, because the entire duration of Cold Snap, it did not trigger trials. That aside, there's also the issue with energy clips, where the only way to unlock energy clips as a craftable ammo is to have the equalizer unlocked. Despite the Jupiter and Aphelion also using energy clips, if you unlock either of those and not the equalizer, you cannot craft energy clips to use your gun. This also feels like a horrendous oversight, because I don't see the intention of having only one of the 3 energy weapons unlock the energy clip blueprint. Your blueprint is rendered useless because you cannot craft the ammo to use it unless it's the equalizer specifically. And I think that is a joke. You would have noticed this. It's very elementary. I just cannot think of a single reason why it would operate like that. I did mention the outfits earlier. They kind of look like ass. Promo material for the not most recent, but one of the more hyped ones, in fact, looks different from what was released. And also it's got the stripper leggings, which everyone will tell me, yes, it's lore accurate, it's historically accurate. But the thing is, it's fashion in a game. You want it to look good first, and then you can amend accuracies to history after. But that, like I said, this is more personal, this is more subjective. You don't have to agree, but I do think they all kind of look like doo-doo. And when you look at the battle passes, the raider decks, they're releasing receding hairline, they're releasing bowl cut. I just want my raider to look good, man. Like, where are you hiding the good hairs, man? Please, give me something to work with. Oh yes. I didn't know whether to put this under bugs or design, but the kettle fire rate was uncapped or nearly uncapped. They said it was at 600. I don't know what this is rating. I don't know if it's 600 bullets per second, bullets per minute. I don't know, but it was at 600, and they reduced it to 450 recently, thankfully. But during the time, it was at 600, essentially uncapped, which led to the entire player base running macros to instantly melt anyone that they had line of sight of. And obviously, this was a problem with an easy fix because the Venator, as you may know, already has a fire rate cap. All they had to do was take the fire rate cap from the Venator and apply it to the kettle. And the kettle problem was so egregious that pretty much you would have entire squads just running around with kettles. Gray guns again, let me tell you. And they're outperforming everything because of how overpowered the macro was. And if you're not using the macro, you're essentially not competing. Yeah, it was problematic. And it lasted longer than it should have. The fix came much later. I don't know why. It's the easiest fix that took too long to address, is what I'll say. Because it shifted the dynamics of PvP across the board for a long time. Similar to the trigger nade. And the trigger nade nerf should have also come in a lot earlier when all they had to do was increase the delay time as they did. Like I said, a lot of these problems I bring up are easily fixable, easily avoidable too. They just don't address them in a timely manner. They don't address them in a timely manner despite how easy the fix should be. And I don't know if there's complications going on behind the scenes, but that's why I think developer communication is important. If it's taking a long time to fix for a particular reason, feel free to just give a reason. Just say it's being looked into even. But for it to take like a week plus, 2 weeks of PvP being nothing but kettles, and trigger nades, mind you, is very disheartening. During those 2 weeks, it becomes very stale. You don't want to play because you're fighting the same thing every game. And you have to participate or else you will get rinsed. Or you're encouraged to participate. It could have just been avoided with a single line of code, just a fire rate cap. Or they could have just Control-C, Control-V. Or just the fact that it wasn't there to begin with. They had the foresight to know to put a fire rate on the Venator, but not the kettle, which is also questionable. Like, why wouldn't it be there in the first place, is what I'm asking. I don't know if this is a recent change or intentional or a bug. You'll see in squads, duos and trios are mixing into the same lobby. And I think that's a mistake because the extra man is 50% more. From duos to trios, you have 50% more players on your team. And because when duos first released, when they announced duo queues, it was working flawlessly. I would queue into nothing but other duos in the lobby, and that seemed intentional. It seemed to work. It was doing great. Recently, if I play duos, I will end up in trios lobbies. And I don't know, like I said, if this is intentional or if there's a problem with their matchmaking. But if it is intentional, you're essentially at a huge disadvantage as a duo. You can assume that you're coming into a duo's lobby, and then once you kill two, you think you're safe, your guard is down, and there's a third. Turns out you're in a trios lobby. If it happens to be a bug with a matchmaking, it has not been stated, it has not been addressed, it has not been fixed, and it's been happening for some time, which is also problematic. Also, in terms of design, Hidden Bunker and Lock Gate are both very unrewarding for those who participate. Hidden Bunker particularly, you'll be running around the whole map. There will be several squadrons of people waiting at the entrance of the bunker, and as soon as you get the last antenna, all the loot is already gone. Encourages no one to run around and do the puzzle. It's counterintuitive. It's a design failure, in my opinion. It's not like I have the solution for that one, but I just think it's problematic. Also, the Deforester Husk, the Baron Husk, the supply drops, and the Field Depot crates are 99% of the time never worth the effort. I remember being excited about looting my own Baron Husk because it's making all this noise, is doing a big old show. There's just like broken arc steel, other garbage is very disappointing. Same with finishing the Deforester Husk puzzle. I put in 3 arc power cells, dodged a bunch of fire, mantled around, And I also got similar garbage. Is very disappointing. These things just seem poorly balanced in terms of the loot that they return for the investment. So a lot of my complaints is just the return on investment for effort, maintenance, for upgrades, for acquiring things. They just don't align, and I feel like that should be addressed in any which way. You can agree with this set of opinions or not. I know people like I've heard that the supply drops aren't meant to give you anything good. You're supposed to get 10, 10 rounds of heavy ammo and 2 light impact grenades, but that is, in my opinion, not worth the flare in the sky, giving away your position, waiting 30 to 40 seconds, and then exposing yourself by looting it with your back turned. If you prefer that gameplay design, so be it. This is just my concern. Edit Flames here. I kind of wanted to put this at the end of the video, but I decided it would be better off here because I know it's going to come up a lot earlier and it's very relevant now that I'm talking about the design portion. I anticipate that a lot of you will be thinking that a lot of the issues I have with the game, mainly the, effort is not reflective of the output, is too try hard, it's too sweaty, and that it just doesn't, that I don't have to play that way. It's too focused on optimization. Now, I'll say that I do play for fun. I don't really chase the loot. I don't really go on a loot grind. I really just try and gear up with my mates and kind of go on a killing spree if we can. It's really just a focus on the fact that this is just what the player base is going to veer towards no matter what. While yes, the player does have control of their action, it is the designer's job to make sure that it's fun to do, right? This is not throwaway knowledge from some bum game designer. This is from Soren Johnson in Civilization. This is senior dev knowledge. Now, I'm not saying that the Arc Raider devs are bad. I'm just saying that there are issues that I think that they should be more aware of. There are fun elements in the game that just are never utilized because of how useless they end up being. Namely, the Baron husks and the Deforester husks. When I figured out that there was a puzzle for them, I thought that was cool. I thought that was pretty neat. I wanted to try it out, so I did. And I got less than what I would have gotten if I just killed 2 wasps. The effort and the time and the risk just made me think, okay, well, I'm just going to go kill 2 wasps instead. This is the natural conclusion that most players would come to when they realize that what they get out for doing something like the Deforester husk is pointless. I just want to say that these aren't issues that really only apply to sweats and tryhards. These issues veer the direction in which the game goes. Just consider the fact that door key rooms were glitchable at the start of the game's release. That completely shifted the nature in which teams and players would approach particular maps. Because when I was playing in squads, while that glitch was active, damn control tower was a kill zone. It was an absolute bloodfest every single time. And as soon as it got patched, as soon as people started running out of keys, it's quiet. It's quiet there. It's peaceful up there. So it really is just reflective of what the player base is going to do. And it is the game designer's job to make sure that that's still something that's fun. Yeah, bottom line, this is something that applies to the entire game, not just tryhards, and it's not just player onus to not participate in effective strategies and force themselves into less effective strategies. It's really just something that should be inherent in the game. So that was the less egregious of my issues with the game. The forgivable part, if you will. So what's the unforgivable part? To be frank, the bugs. There are so many bugs littering the game, and it's very problematic. My main issue is just that it takes far too long for Embark to either address, acknowledge, or fix these bugs, despite how simple the fix should be, right? Now, I've said this to much opposition many times, either on Reddit, which I know, yes, he's a Redditor, or my friend group even, that this game is not polished. And I hear a lot of it's very polished, but I've never seen a bug in my life. Yet the whole first month was everyone door humping each other to get into locked rooms without the key. Now that's not an egregious bug. It doesn't break the game. It shifts the gameplay loop because everyone wants to fight around those door key rooms, but it is still a bug. It's not conducive to the way that Embark designed the game, with the key system, but that's fine. It wasn't even that harmful, so it's fine. But the fact that it took them so long to even address and fix them, the thing is, games will always have bugs, right? But when it comes to an extraction shooter, the consequence of bugs in a game is more than just like your ego or your rank. You're actually losing the tools that you either came into the raid with or you are leaving the raid with. When you come across a game breaking bug that you died to, sure you get, or you have the chance to be refunded your items, because mind you, I've been killed multiple times by exploiters in the walls of Stellamontis or in the walls of Spaceport, and only ever really got one refund for a Berletta and a light shield, that you'll only get back what you came in with. So it's still disappointing, it's still painful, and it still hurts, because an extraction shooter should have a higher level of maintenance, in my opinion, than something like Call of Duty, where you're just kind of running around and shooting for fun. An extraction shooter is losing the tools and progress you've accumulated. But I get it, right? Like, there's always going to be bugs in a game. There's an article where the devs mentioned that they did rigorous QA testing, and they could have never been prepared for just how much the player base could find ways to break the game. And that's normal. The QA testing is just some scores of people, whereas your player base can reach millions. Despite the claim of rigorous QA testing, a lot of the bugs were very elementary. Collision exploits are very common in games, and I feel like any QA tester should have checked something like that, especially when you have a locked door key system in place to begin with. These were also submitted during the beta testing and were not fixed or addressed during that time until release, and then they were still present during release for an additional month or so. With a higher consequence in an extraction shooter, you would expect that fixing bugs would be higher on their priority tier list. It just is not reflected in the way that they're treating the game. Like, you'll find that there are many bugs that are there from pure neglect. Like, I'd say the most egregious and offensive bugs in the game have been the allowing the player to access the console, which is such a horrendous oversight in my opinion. I've never seen any other game, an online game, have something at this level. And additionally, having heard that the game got cracked and pirates on the cracked copy could play on official servers with genuine purchasers, I also think that that's also something I've never seen before. It seems way out of whack, and I'm not sure how this was allowed. Obviously, I don't know the intricacies. I understand that they are a smaller studio. I'm not saying that they should have cybersec at the level of Blizzard, but it is notable, right, that these things got through, and markedly they patched those things very quickly, which is great. It is possible for Embark to address bug and game breaking issues and exploits efficiently if they want to. The problem is they rarely want to for some reason, especially when the fixes should be very simplistic, very quick, and straightforward. Oh yeah, and also on the topic of QA testing, you will find achievements that don't even trigger. I feel like one of the first steps in QA testing is making sure that all your systems work, including achievements. So to the tune of very rigorous QA testing, I don't know how rigorous they were working, because that's not even a matter of players breaking the game. The game just does not work at that point. Other bugs include interaction breaking. There were times when you'd say come off a zip and your interact button was stuck on the zip line and you could not interact with anything until you returned to the zip line, and then that was eventually fixed, which was great. And then the cold snap update came through, and it came to a worse version of that, where say I tried to unlock a door and then I could no longer interact with anything, and returning to the door I could no longer interact with that either, so I was stuck not being able to interact with anything. And the only way to fix it was, as I surmised, dropping an item and picking it back up to reset your interact button. Genuinely game breaking. If you don't know to do that beforehand, pretty much what happens is you're locked out of even pressing exfil hatches. You can't leave a room if you close the door. You can't do anything. You cannot interact with the game unless you find a way to fix that. They did eventually fix that, but the fact that they reintroduced the bug during Cold Snap was also very questionable and disappointing. It seems like another oversight. It's astonishing to see it back in the game in an even worse form than it was originally. The more broken bugs in the game's infancy were the Stellamontis glitch and the spaceport wall glitch, right? And these are incredible oversights. There's no other way to put this. It's truly elementary level stuff. The wall into Spaceport is not even a collision glitch. It's just a wall that's missing collision in general. You don't have to have another player. You don't have to force your way in with an item. You can just walk right in, as if a dev forgot to toggle collision on a wall. And the thing is, that should mean it's an easy fix. Literally just by adding a collision barrier, you can patch that little wall up. And the thing is, that took ages to address. Furthermore, with the Stella Montis glitch, I don't know if this is worse or just as egregious as the Spaceport one, but to have left a out-of-bounds zipline accessible by players just in the game, that screams like negligence. No polish, mind you, and no care. Did not seem like anyone caught it, no one looked at it, no one noticed it. And similarly, it has a very easy fix. Remove the zipline. I can guarantee you right now that it cannot be difficult to remove an item from the map. So both these bugs with, I will say, very game-breaking consequences. Essentially, Stella Montis was unplayable. Spaceport launch towers were unapproachable for the entire duration that these bugs were active. Those are two maps that I essentially forbade. Well, not forbade. I forewent. Forgoed? Forewent. I gave up on these maps. I did not play them. I did not touch them until I saw that the bugs were addressed. And the problem is that they weren't addressed for such a long time, despite being an easy fix, which meant that I couldn't even play on the maps that I enjoyed. Because anytime I entered, my loot is pretty much at risk of just being lost to an exploiter. I think that's my main problem with the bugs. It's not that there are bugs in the game, it's that Embark will not make motions to address and to fix these issues, especially when they're as bad as they are, like glitching into walls. I've mentioned that with the console and the pirates, they can address bugs very quickly. Even more so when people found ways to insta-kill the queen with a blaze nade trap, or when people found a way to get into Hidden Bunker without actually opening all the antennas. So the problem is that with Hidden Bunker, they disabled it immediately, and they never re-enabled it until they fixed the bug. Same thing with the Queen. They disabled the Queen. I remember being in a lobby. The Queen had 30 or so more minutes, and when the Queen event on the map, when I exfilled to try it out again, it was no longer there. It was disabled. I was there when it happened. Frodo. They disabled Queen immediately on the spot, like red alert, and they disabled Hidden Bunker on the spot, red alert. It did not come on at its intended time that night. It's reflective of their priorities, right? So a player's game experience is low on the priority tier list. Whether you are being gunned down through the walls in Stella Montis or Spaceport is not too much of a concern, despite how easy of a fix it is. And if they weren't, they could communicate that. They didn't either. So those are not fast fixes. Those take weeks, apparently. But if the player threatens getting ahead, i.e. access to good loot easily, what that does is it threatens the game's longevity because the player reaches the end goal a lot faster. And because the game's longevity is at risk, that becomes a red light. So your player experience, like your one specifically, is nada. That's nothing. It's worthless. They have enough players. That's not really a concern for them. But if the game state is looking like everyone's going to be swimming in queen cores, they have to stop that immediately, which is fine. I understand that. I just wish that the player experience issues can be just as demanding as the game state issues, so to speak. There's no reason that they can't both be addressed, especially with the ease. The consequences of the bug, paired with how easy it is to fix, and then taking weeks to address, I think is just such a nasty combo. Hello, Edit Flames here again. Now, I know this is going to come up that I keep bringing up how easy it is without actually knowing what's going on behind the scenes. So I just want to make sure that the focus is on the fact that dev-player communication is vital for a game, and the fact that if it were difficult to fix, all they had to do was let the community know that they were going to look into it, or that they are looking into it, or how the progress is coming along. Because obviously, I'm looking at it from an armchair armchair dev standpoint, right? I'm here saying, oh yeah, that zip line in Stelmontis is obviously very easy to remove because it seems just like a stray accidental drag and drop that someone left in. That's my assumption. Maybe it is core to the game's code and they had to untangle everything. I doubt that, but maybe, just maybe, right? And same with the lack of a collision wall in Spaceport. It's seemingly easy, sure, but maybe it's important that the game does not have a collision wall there so that the spaceport towers remain standing. I don't know. Um, so this is just taking into account the fact that it can be difficult. These bugs can be difficult to address. But my point is also that if that were the case, then the devs should have either disabled those maps and addressed those issues before moving forward, or at least announced to the community that there is work being done into present issues. Neither of these things happened to my knowledge. Edit flames out. Psh. Apart from that, there's still a bunch of other bugs that haven't been addressed. Like the proxy chat, I find is still broken. The lifeblood of the game being that like casual camaraderie that you find in in solos. It sort of doesn't even work for me anymore. Everyone's just sort of a garble, and the fact that it wasn't like this initially means that during one of the updates they just broke something again, and it hasn't been addressed since. Because proxy chat has been broken for at least a fortnight plus, I don't know, and it still remains as such. Whenever you hit the upgrade gun screen, not even whenever, sometimes, it'll sometimes be reliable, but if you say want to upgrade a gun and it takes you to the upgrade screen, it will highlight a different gun. So you'd expect if you right click your Anvil 2 and you want to turn it into an Anvil 3, you can just hold E and then you get your Anvil 3 after spending your materials. Right now it's, I don't know, I guess a 50-50 chance. I don't know what triggers it, but if you upgrade your Anvil 2, you right click upgrade, you can go to your Renegade 1, and if you're holding E, oh shit, you just wasted all your fucking materials, dumbass. I don't know, I feel like this one has been in the game since its inception, and I do wish they'd address that. Earlier they had the one where if you went into the crafting tab, whenever you crafted something it would reset back to the first item. I think it was along those lines, and that was also infuriating. But they addressed that, which is great. Just waiting on a couple more bugs. The crafting quantity resets is also an introduced bug. This was not there when I was playing in 2025 and the release of the game. I never had this issue, but this year, during some update, whenever I try to craft things consecutively, it will reset the quantity, and it's infuriating, it's mind-numbing, it sucks. What else do they have? The flashlights will penetrate doors. I have been the victim of my teammate turning on his flashlight behind a door and telling the enemy team that we were there. I tested this. It does go through. You can tell. And it's a dead giveaway that you're in the area. In a game where getting the jump is very important. The audio system in general has a lot of issues. You'll find some Redditors have already documented and looked at all that. I do agree that the Z-axis in particular has incredible issues. Additionally, the aim assist is a problem that scales with your FPS. You might have seen the clip of I think there's some streamer that was shooting at a wasp or a hornet or something, and you could see he would lock on to the rotors of the hornet, and everyone thought he was cheating. In fact, he was not cheating. He was just at 240 FPS or something along those lines. And turns out aim assist scales with your FPS up to a max of about 240 and is pretty much useless at 60. So consoles are in the gutter, whereas if you're on PC you have this incredible benefit. There are many bugs. I think it's fair to say that this game is not polished, and that's not a jab at anyone. That's not me being dismissive of the abilities of the dev team. I think they're doing great. It's just it is objectively an unpolished game with how many issues there are and how egregious these issues are. The game is rampant with bugs, and we shouldn't be afraid to admit that, because like I said, I get a lot of pushback if I call this game unpolished. Pointing out bugs is necessary from the community to the dev. It's necessary so that they can work on it, and then we can have a better running game. It's really straightforward, I promise you. It's very straightforward. The player-dev relationship shouldn't be so complex. You don't have to defend the devs and tell them that the game is perfect if it's not. Because it's not. There are problems. And that's fine, as long as they are worked on. One more bug that I wanted to mention that is what I'd consider on par with the Stellamontis and Spaceport wall glitches is the extract seed vault glitch, also in Stellamontis. It's considerably harmful. Essentially, you want to either triple, quadruple check the seed vault exfil every time you want to use it, or you just forego it altogether because you risk there being campers inside the extraction zone. Similarly, this should also be an easy fix. There should be an area check within the exfil zone that runs a check on whether a player is inside it or not when the countdown hits 0 and extracts them. Now, logically, all you would have to do is expand this area, and this issue has been in the game also for a significantly long time, several weeks at this point. But with 1.13 dropping today, allegedly it has also been fixed alongside, I think, the FPS aim assist issue as well as the proxy chat issue, allegedly. I say allegedly mainly just because I can't really log on right now as there's a active DDoS attack on Embark, which is awful. I'm not really blaming the devs for any of that. Obviously, there's not much they can do. There's just one more bug that I think should have had a lot more urgency attached to it. I will also mention that this most recent patch introduced a accidental nerf to the Venator, Berletta, and Kettle. So it is interesting that what's happening is these patches are getting pushed to live, but they're introducing bugs, like new bugs with them, that ideally should not be affecting not broken systems. What this has also done has changed the looting speed to be slower. This patch has introduced a slower looting speed, claiming that the previous one before 1.13 was unintended this entire time, which is also quite a questionable position, I suppose, as if meaning to say that we've all been running on a roided out loot finder this whole time, and now we're actually at what it should be, and the fact that this whole time it had not been picked up by QA or anybody until now when they decided to patch it, that's very questionable. In terms of design decisions, also the matriarch and queen cores have been made to be less abundant for some reason after I had already highlighted just how useless they are to begin with, considering the gold guns are not rewarding in the first place. I don't know. That's all. I just wanted to discuss some of the things that 1.13 introduced because that came out while I was making the video. Anyways, Ediflames out. Bye. Now, I will say in the most egregious set of problems, and maybe not the most, but something that I have personal beef with, very, very personal beef with, is the UI. Like, my god, the UI makes me want to have a bad day. I come from a pedigree of having played other extraction shooters, namely DMZ and Delta Force, and not like lightly either. It's not like I dabbled in them. I got the secret Serpentine skin in DMZ, which is quite an achievement. Lots of hours. I've put a lot of work into that. And I also came first place speedrunning the Delta Force Serpentine raid. Was this just a little flex for my achievements, which happen to both be Serpentine related? So I've got experience, right? It is without hesitation that I would say that Arc Raiders has the worst UI I have had to interact with. I hate it. It's so anti-user. It's not UX friendly at all. It sucks. It makes me very upset. First and foremost, I'd say the worst is probably no loadout system. I get that that can be difficult to implement, especially with the current state of the UI. So that's forgivable. I will say even the other games can't even get a proper loadout interface working too well either. So it's forgivable. Something that I think would really benefit the game is having a menu that's navigatable through keyboard only. It just made it the ease of flying through the menus, especially because there's so many tabs to work with. If you could just cycle through them with Q and E, or like enter into one with space, you'll make everyone's lives a lot easier. And even if not, you'll make some people's lives easier. And if not some, you'll make my life easier, which I would appreciate. Thank you. But more importantly, I think because there's a refiner station in the game, there's an upcycle mechanic. You can turn your baser materials into a higher rarity material, say. And usually those are for crafting other items. So say you want to upgrade your Anvil 3 and you're missing mechanical comps. Something Delta Force would do, because it has a similar system, you can have a crafting link as to the item that you're missing. So if I'm missing mechanical components in Arc Raiders, what I have to do is back out of my inventory screen. I have to go to the crafting tab, and then I have to go to the refiner, and then make my mech comp, and then go back to my inventory, find the gun that I was looking at, upgrade that, and then I'm finally there. As opposed to Delta Force, if I'm missing a component, what I can do, if it's craftable, right? What I could do was just go to the gun. If I'm missing the component, the link to craft what I'm missing is right there in a window that opens beside it in the UI. You just craft it, and then you can upgrade your gun. That's, like 3 steps. In the menu, you can do it right there. I think that would save so much time. You'll hear a lot of people complaining that just gearing up is incredibly mind-numbing, and I am not one to disagree. I hate dying because I'm spending more time just gearing up, crafting shit. Also, there's no system to manage weapon attachments. The only way to exchange weapon attachments is to have both guns in your slots. You cannot look at a gun in your inventory and then exchange the attachments. You have to equip it and then swap them over and then unequip it if you had 2 guns. It's very unintuitive, it's time consuming, it's not conducive to how it should be. The expedition bonuses were just not, I don't know if this is more a UI thing, maybe a game direction thing, or maybe a design thing, but the bonuses for the expedition were not taken into account at all. It was evident that the devs didn't know what they wanted to do for the expedition, that being how much the player should have reached in terms of monetary value of the stash. It ended up being 5 million, as you know, and what the benefits were going to be, right? When they finally decided on those, they never actually implemented them into the UI of the game. What you'll find is, so for the longest time, I thought that the repair bonus that I was getting from the expedition was worthless. It didn't do anything. I thought it was broken, mainly because the UI does not reflect that you are getting that bonus. So pre-expedition, whenever you repair a gun or an item, you will get 50% of its durability back. 50%, not 50 flat durability. So if you have a weapon with 130, you will get 65 durability back. When I did the maths, the UI was showing me I was still getting 65 durability back. And I was like, what's going on? I thought I had this fucking bonus from the expedition. Like, at this point, I was so used to Embark having bugs in their game that I literally just thought it was another bug. I just wrote it off. I said, whatever. I didn't choose the expedition so that my repair costs could be cheaper or that I'd get more bang for my buck. I genuinely just chalked it up to Embark made another mistake. And they did, but in a different sort of way. So what happens is the UI does not reflect it, but that weapon's durability is in fact affected by the expedition bonus. And it should be a simple fix. Again, there should be a simple fix to address, and it has not been since the expedition. It's still like this. Furthermore, the gear benches, they cannot be rearranged. They are fixed in the location in which you crafted them, in the order in which you crafted them. This is infuriating because you have the muscle memory of playing to 5 mil with the same set of gear benches in the same position. Them having fixed positions means that you can't rearrange them, but you know where they are. You know where they're going to be. Come through with the expedition, the order in which you find the items you need to craft these gear benches is not the same as the order you found them in the first time you played, which means you will end up crafting them in a different order. And I was not aware that they were fixed in the order that you craft them. So now my muscle memory is all jumbled, and pretty much my refiner, which I thought should be at the end every time, is now in the middle, and I'm looking to craft a medium shield. It's on the far right side instead of at the left side. My med tab is somewhere else. And it sounds small, and technically it is small, but it's such a very basic oversight And it's also a very basic fix. You literally just need to be able to rearrange, drag and drop. These are just issues that plague the game in abundance. Oh yeah, and I suppose this is also in line with the weapon upgrades. You can't even sort the weapon upgrades menu. So what happens is, if you do end up having the bug where you try and upgrade a gun, but it redirects you to a different gun, it's seemingly random. Either order of acquirement, maybe it's in the order of when you acquired the weapon or something. Pretty much, it's not sorted by rarity, it's not sorted by gun type, it's not sorted in any which way, and you do not have the option to sort that list of upgrades. So what you have to do is pretty much just cycle through your list until you actually find the gun that you wanted to upgrade in the first place. It's another, very small bug, but it's something that just shouldn't be there. It seems very, I don't want to say common sense, but it seems like it would be the most basic UI implementation to have a way to sort a list of items. Because there is a way to sort your guns in your inventory, but you cannot sort your guns in the upgrade tab. It's very backward. On top of all of that, UI, bugs, game design, there's also an obvious and very evident lack of direction from the Embark dev team. Now, like I said, this is not a jab at them. It's normal to not have everything planned out. You can't know the longevity of your game beforehand. You cannot know. You don't have like some oracle vision. You don't have the funny orb to stare into the future. That's fine. But there needs to be a more aggressive take on what exactly is happening in the game. Because for the longest time, the community did not know how much they needed to earn for the expedition to get the maximum amount out of it, i.e. the 5 skill points. So by the time that the 5 million was announced, you end up with just a very short window to either accumulate the 5 million, or you have the idea that I need to keep 5 million in the bank, so now I'm only going to play with free kits. The design decision here was suffocating the gameplay, right? It changes everyone to be money focused instead of like having fun, and also instead of having fun, they're conserving all their gear. What happens in a wipe, or what should happen in a wipe, is you have a reason to use all the stuff that you've been hoarding. Give me a reason to run through all these blue guns I'm sitting on, all these pink guns I'm sitting on. Let me bring out an Aphelion just for the fun of it, even though it sucks. That's what I did. I said, yeah, let me try it. But what really happens is you're losing value. You are essentially taking away from the benefits by playing the game. Taking away the benefits that you're going to get by playing the game risky. So everyone ends up playing the game very statically, or it's encouraged at least, which you don't want. I think it was a poor decision. And it's good that the devs have said that they are looking to find other ways to encourage wiping, because wiping is good for the health of the game, I think, because you don't want people hoarding forever. Yeah, it's good that they're looking for these ways, and they've stated that the next wipe will not be like that. That's great. It's just that we don't know what the next wipe is gonna be yet. They still haven't told us. It seems like even they don't really know yet. I don't want to put words in their mouth, but these things should be announced as early as possible. The way it was done back then, we had such a short window to accumulate 5 million, it really just detracted from the gameplay in the weeks before the expedition. So if they do know what they're doing, it should be announced ASAP, but there's just no reason for them to have not. So it really insinuates that they don't know what to do yet. Arguably it's fine, but really ideally these things should have been ironed out before the release of the game. Like I said, you can't see the future. You do have to work things out midway, but there needs to be, for something so core in the game as an expedition and a wipe, this is a huge event. This is the change between seasons, right? Something like that needs to be ironed out earlier, way earlier. Another issue was they announced that they had the table up of what you keep and what you lose by going on the expedition. The most egregious one here was the fact that they promised that you would keep your level 1 gear benches, which would also address the issue of them being fixed in place because they would stay in the same spot. You keep your level 1 workbenches. Unfortunately, sometime in the middle of that, after the announcement and the actual expedition, they decided to rescind that without notifying the community. So literally a stealth nerf. It's not that I'm upset that I have to go find 10 plastic parts or find 10 metal pieces. It's really that simplistic. I was watching the discussion on this and everyone just sort of went, oh, that's easy. I don't really care. But it shows a lack of vision from the directors, right? Like, and also communication to remove a benefit without notifying the community and doing it after you've already printed out the pros and cons, right, of wiping. It just seemed very sly. It seemed very snaky, very serpentine, if you will. Yeah, it was not a good look, but a lot of people just didn't seem to care, which is, I guess, more power to them. But in my opinion, that's not a professional or very conducive way to operate, right? You're, I don't want to say it because it's very harsh, but you're lying to your player base about what they're going to get. Because you've announced it, and then you will secretly take it away when no one's looking without making sure they're notified beforehand. When you go through with your expedition, you go, oh, wait a second. Where are my workbenches? I thought I was promised level 1 workbenches, only to realize that you have to craft them again. Whether it was a mistake in the tooltip, whether it was a change in decision, it should have been communicated to the community, both of which was not done, which is problematic. Oh, and also in terms of the UI, the tooltips are wrong, let me say. The Patina tooltip, the Stitcher tooltip, these have been like this since the inception of the game. They have not been looked at or addressed. It just shows more negligence. It shows an oversight. It shows no care. Obviously, the dev attention is required elsewhere in most times, but these are also 5-minute fixes. They have not taken the time to even acknowledge, address, or look at. And I don't know, make your own take on it, but I'm just pointing out all these things, and they all seem like mistakes. Well, they are mistakes. It's disappointing to see. I do like the game. The framework is amazing, but like I said, it's just got all these issues peppering it, littering it all over the place, and they don't have to be there. They can be fixed in a day. All the list of issues, majority of them can be fixed within one day. Look, I like the game. I like Arc Raiders. I want it to excel. I want it to do better. I want it to be in a better spot than it is right now. I treat it more like a friend slop game, right? I will hop on Arc Raiders to play with my friends. I remember at the start, I had this big adoration for the game where I wanted to really progress and really do well and get all the stuff, get all the trials. You can call it burnout. It's probably partially that, but it's also just all these little issues build up and you start to get tired of the game itself. I don't care for the loot treadmill anymore. The PvE is not very promising. Bottom line, those are all my critiques, right? From game design to the bugs that were inherent in the game and the lack of attention that they get from the devs to the UI being anti-user and the lack of vision from the studio itself. But that doesn't mean it's a bad game. And it has every potential to be even better than it is now. Because it's a great game currently. So this critique is not something born out of a hate for the game. I want to keep playing the game. I am still playing the game. And it's not like any of these one things make me want to stop playing. But altogether, it becomes sort of enough that it detracts me from wanting to. Make your own conclusion, right? I just kind of wanted to speak on all the issues that I've got with the game itself. Because every time I seem to bring up at least one of these, I'll get met with a lot of pushback. Because people don't want to admit that there are any issues with the game. But there are definitely issues with the game. Just going over the ones that I myself notice. I'm sure you could probably find more. I know it's not that easy for the devs to just, wake up and get to work when they have a lot of things in the pipeline. I'm sure they have a lot of things in the pipeline. Recently they announced solos versus squads, which, if I'm being honest, takes zero effort to cook because you're essentially just linking two existing matchmaking queues to each other. Um, I'm not sure. No one really asked for solos versus squads except for maybe a streamer or something or whatever. And the bonus was XP, which no one is desperate for or was really looking to get. It's a very questionable choice. It adds variety, I suppose. All that aside, you can decide whether or not you like the game. I like the game. You can decide whether or not you think the game could be better. You can agree with me, you can disagree with me. I've made the point. I do think the game can be better. Whether you disagree, please tell me in detail why any of these things exist as they do. If you think the UI is perfect, if you think the gameplay sandbox is perfect, if you think the way Embark prioritizes bugs, issues, problems with a game is perfect, let me know. Let me know why. Why my critiques fall flat. I don't have the answers, but I definitely see the problems. I don't have the solutions, but I experience the consequences. So, as a player, it's just a set of feedback. I've been sitting so that you can see this. These are my cats. Shit. This one is Bella. This one is Rebek. You could probably guess which one I named. It says Double Trouble. How good is that? Yeah, look, if you enjoyed, please let me know. I do have a lot of things to say about a lot of games. I just usually never take the time to time or the effort, because I'm gonna have to edit all this. Jesus Christ, to actually put out my thoughts. But I just wanted to know what everyone else thought, right? But I'm gonna go get some sleep. I'm very tired. Okay. Good night.